Hey, what's up guys? It's Technical Tim here, and I want to thank everyone so much who's been liking all my videos and subscribing to the channel, and I'd really appreciate if you gave this video a thumbs up. And I haven't done a video for a few days. Sorry, I planned on doing a video for the Contender series, but I ended up not having any plays. So so on this video today, I'm gonna quickly kind of talk about the Contender series, and then I will talk about the 3 current plays that I have on the UFC card coming up this weekend. And just for the schedule kind of videos up ahead, what I'm going to do is Gugabe and I are going to do a podcast tomorrow, so that should come out tomorrow. Today, it's Wednesday, by the way, so the podcast with him and I should come out tomorrow. And then I'll probably do some sort of final thoughts video on Friday, because I am still looking at some other fights, and I'm thinking about actually playing a couple underdogs, but I haven't decided yet, and I'm still kind of looking into it for that UFC card. And so yeah, for the Contender series, I'll tell you that was the first episode last night, and I actually got a little lucky. So I was gonna play what was that fucker's name? Let me pull up the card real quick. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up real quick, just so I can like quickly talk about it real quick, and then just move on. I'll just talk about this card for like 2 minutes. Oh yeah, so I taped Alton Meeks and really liked what I saw from his wrestling, and on Tapology, the odds didn't come out yet, so I was hoping to get him at a reasonable line, and on Tapology, it was actually 54% of people were in favor of Castro, so I was thinking maybe we could get Meeks around even money. And I was telling people that, this is hilarious, this is going to make me look dumb, but it ended up not mattering because I didn't end up getting to play it anyway. I said that I thought Meeks was going to win the fight about 90% of the time, but it kind of shows these Contender series cards when people are not fighting equal competition. Like I always talk about it when it's kind of like a YouTube capping card. I talk about like debutantes when they come in fighting like a UFC level guy. It's sometimes hard to know what's going to happen just because the debutantes aren't fighting similar levels of opposition. Where like this card this weekend, John Lineker and Rob Font, for example, they fought each other one, but they've also fought a lot of people who They have some overlapping opponents, so it's kind of easier to kind of gauge their skills. But on these Contender series cards, sometimes it's kind of hard to do that, so you do have to be pretty careful. So I tend to not go too crazy on some of these plays. But I had talked about how I would bet Meeks heavy at around even money. And so I was like waiting for the line, and I said I'd cap him around like 90%. And the line that I had, at least whenever I looked, like I think he opened up around minus 300, and I was like, whatever. But by the time I kind of could have played it, he was around minus 500, and I didn't play it. And like I had someone ask me, well, like you capped him at 90%, like you thought he. And the funny thing is, he ended up closing at 90%, what I originally capped him at. And so a lot of people must have seen what I saw on tape, and he closed around. Yeah, 90%, but so minus 900, and that's where I capped him. But he was at minus 500, and someone was like, why wouldn't you play him there? You got like if you capped him at minus 900, and it's like, sometimes you need to know how the implied percentages work. So minus 500 is an implied percentage of 83%, and minus 900 is 90. So you get a 7% advantage on the bookie, but at the same time, it's that 7% isn't like a slam dunk, so that wouldn't be a huge play, and it's minus 500, so it's like I don't want to play heavy on that anyway. And it's not like a huge advantage on the books, and you just have to understand there can be some room for error on these Contender series cards, because it's kind of hard to compare these guys when they're not going up against really good competition. So I guess the lesson is, one, YouTube capping cards like this are sometimes kind of tough. It can be random. You can still profit on it, but it can be kind of tough to really know. And 2, like, you need to understand the implied percentages at times, because actually, like, -1, the difference between, I don't know, even money, so a guy who's minus or plus 100 versus -200, that's 50 to 66%. So if a guy is -200, if you cap a guy at -200, that's a 66% chance that he wins the fight. And if you get him at even money, you get a 16% chance or 16% edge on the bookies, and you get a huge return. Like, you get all your money back. You get 100% return. That's a bigger edge than -500 to -900. So I just wanted to talk about that. But I ended up not playing Meeks because he got hit so heavy, and he opened up as like a big favorite anyway. So I kind of got a little lucky, because if he would have opened up at like -200 or something, I would have played him. Or even like, I may have even hit him at -300, but probably not. Like probably not. Maybe in like a parlay or something. But yes, that was just a little lesson that I could throw out there. And then the Loughnane Algeo, that was a cool fight. Dana White, man, yelling at a fucking kid for shooting a double leg, and probably the most entertaining fight of the night. I like the Contender Series a lot, but it's a little too like go for the finish type of thing, where it's like whenever you have that mentality and someone gets like a 30-second finish right away, they can end up being like T. Edwards, because you didn't get to see them for a full 15-minute fight, where they're actually, you find out that they're actually not very good if they don't get that quick knockout. Like T. Edwards is kind of an example of that. He finished a guy really impressively, really quickly, like 30 seconds into his Contender Series fight, and then he went into the UFC and he's gotten starched 2 fights in a row because he wasn't able to get Bermudez or Don Madge out of there right away. So that's why I kind of think that format's dumb. Like, I think Loughnane was the best fighter on the card by a mile last night. Like, I don't think Loughnane like a title contender in the UFC or anything, but I think he's like totally UFC material. So that's kind of weird. And then the one play I almost did, this was one that I almost decided to do. Hannah Goldie, I thought about playing her, but she got up to -400, so I was like, I'm not going to touch that. And then there was a lot of late action on Robbins, and I thought about playing Goldie once she got down to like -195, but I ended up just staying away. But I thought about playing her, but I didn't play it. I just saw that she could dig underhooks really well, and Callie Robbins' only way of getting takedowns are like kind of charging at you with her arms forward, and then she'll try to like get a trip once she gets the clinch. But whenever she initiates the clinch, her arms are just like that, like a zombie. And Hannah Goldie can just dig underhooks from that. It's just giving her underhooks, and Hannah Goldie's a pretty strong chick. So yeah, and then Soriano Pickett, that was kind of just like kind of like a wild fight. Soriano just kind of wings hooks and is a decent wrestler. So yeah, but nothing really to say about that. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that card, just like the betting kind of mindset that I had going into that card, and some things that you can maybe pick up on. But yeah, like, let's talk about the card this weekend. Currently, I only have 3 plays, and people who bought my picks, I think people who like already had bought them probably got on the lines. But I do want to say, if you do buy my pick, actually, I wouldn't even buy my picks this week, because the 3 plays that I have, and I'm just going to tell you them now anyway, so don't worry about buying my picks. All 3 of my lines, I got insane lines on, like really good lines, and I tipped them, and sometimes your guy just becomes a bigger favorite to where the line's not available anymore. It's kind of called a stale line. But Anderson Dos Santos, I played him, I tipped him a while ago, like June 2nd, and he was in the plus 230 range for like a week. So I tipped him a long time ago, so people who previously bought my picks probably already got on Anderson Dos Santos, but he's now -125, and I'm not really going to break this fight down. It's pretty much like Andre Ewell has a 1-2 and doesn't really have a ground game, and Anderson Dos Santos can probably compete a little bit on the feet, even though I think Ewell's probably the better striker. But Dos Santos could, if he gets this fight on the floor, he could end it. So I couldn't believe the plus 230 line. It was way off. But I can't decide. I think I might just arb out of this and take the profit, because it would be the equivalent of winning like a free plus 140 type of fight, because the line's now -125 for Dos Santos, and I got him at plus 230. So I might just arb out and take like a free profit, because I got a couple grand on him at plus 230 because I knew that line was going to change. So I hit the fuck out of it. So I was really happy with that. But as far as the fight itself, like, I think Ewell can still win. I think the line's probably where it should be now. But I'm not going to go too much into it. Like, I think everyone kind of knows the main things about that fight. Anderson dos Santos does struggle with takedown attempts a little bit, though, so he might not. I don't know, but I think he's gonna win. But I think I might just arb out. That's a huge arb opportunity, so I'll probably do that. But the other two fights, John Lineker, I got him at minus 145. Like, I threw a few units on him. I think that this was a classic line manipulation. He opened up at minus 270. And I know Rob Font's good, but stylistically, I think this is a really tough fight for Rob Font to win. And they fought already, and it's not because I understand, like, if someone fights, it doesn't mean the same guy's going to win again, unless if, like, it's just like a stylistic thing. And I think this is a bit of a stylistic thing, but I think this was line manipulation because he was minus 270, which I think is probably accurate for John Lineker. And people bet Font so much that when the lines were still kind of limited, that Lineker got down to minus 145. And then it wasn't, I didn't really get limited in a few of my books. And so I hit him heavy. And then now it's going back to where Lineker's currently minus 220. And I think people purposefully bet on Font so they could get more money on Lineker whenever the limits were gone. That's what I think happened. And so yeah, I thought that was kind of strange, but I got in on him and I tipped it, and I hope people who bought my picks were able to kind of get it whenever I did. But the way I see this is Rob Font can't fight going backwards, and Lineker is going to pressure him all night. And I've heard people say Lineker's declined and Font's improved. First of all, like, Lineker's actually younger, but neither of them have had, like, I don't think Font's improved. I think he's just fought guys where he can jab them to death and doesn't get pressured. Like beating Sergio Pettis is just not the same as John Lineker. And I played Rob Font heavy in that. Hold on, I'm trying to pull something up. Like, I played Rob Font pretty heavy against Sergio Pettis, but, like, him and Almeida, Rob Font can actually get, he kind of thrives when he's the one going forward. And the only other time he really got pressured since the Lineker fight was against Pedro Munoz, and he started getting tagged. Like, he had some early success whenever Munoz wasn't really pressuring or kind of, like, throwing his hands. But once Munoz started pressuring him, he started landing a lot. And Font doesn't know how to pivot off, and people some kind of seem to think the gap is closed, but I don't understand that. Like, I just feel like Font has a jab, and that's his best weapon, and he can't throw it well when moving backwards, and he kind of has to be at a neutral movement pattern, or he has to be the one going forward. So I just don't see how he's going to really definitively beat Lineker. And Lineker's still kind of the same guy. He'll just charge forward, wing hooks. And the reason Sandhagen did well is Sandhagen actually knows how to angle and pivot off. Like, he can fight going backwards a little bit. And he's more versatile than Rob Font. Rob Font can't do that. He panics, and he did the same exact thing against Pedro Munoz that he did to Lineker. He'll panic shoot for like a takedown when he's uncomfortable. And I've only seen him do that in a couple fights. And it's always whenever he's kind of being pressured and getting tagged. And him panic wrestling like that is a signal to me that he's super uncomfortable at that time. So I think he's just going to get pressured heavy again. And Lineker's going to pick up a pretty clear decision, in my opinion. And, like, the way I see it is, like, even if Font outperforms my expectations, I don't think he can sub or knock Lineker out. So he's going to have to win by a decision. And even if he like really exceeds my expectations, I think it's like worst case scenario that he exceeds my expectations and it ends up being a close fight to where Lineker still might get the decision anyway, and he'll be the one moving forward, so like it will look fine on the judges' scorecards. And Lineker's volume has not dropped off at all, so I don't see like anything about his game that has gotten worse. It's just he's fought some guys who actually can fight against his style where Font can't. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give my justification on that, because I think he should be like this type of, like I think he wins 7 or 8 out of 10. Yeah, like he lost to Sandhagen, and he's lost to Dillashaw. I mean, that both those fights are so different stylistically. Yeah, so I don't know. And then like against Dillashaw kept doing that super duck takedown and kept getting top position, and that was it. And it wasn't like anything Lineker, like it wasn't Lineker's skill set of pressure striking going down. It was just he went up against a better wrestler, so I don't know. Yeah, and then like I watched all Font's fights too since, and all his wins were against guys who weren't really pressuring him in the way that Lineker's going to. And even Asuncao, whenever he would land some hands on the feet when he started pressuring Font too. Like I don't know, I think this is just going to be a pretty clear decision. But that's all I have to say. The line's currently like -2 something. I would wait that out because people tend to bet Font. And if you can get Lineker around like -170 at some point, I would recommend playing him. I was lucky to get him at -145, so I'm really excited about that. Then Kevin Aguilar, this was another one. I tipped this a few days ago. He got down to -120, and I was like, I didn't know if Ige people. This happens a lot. Like cappers just don't. They tend to not cap grappling very well, and I remember I max bet Ricky Simone over Ronnie Yaya, and Yaya flipped to the favorite at the end, and I didn't expect that, but I was like, okay, like that's fine, and I ended up kind of getting a line on Simone that wasn't as good as his closing odds, but I was like, whatever, like Simone's gonna dominate here. So sometimes I don't really know where these grappling dependent type of fights will really go. But when he got to -120, I kind of thought, I'm going to hit Aguilar for now. And if he becomes an underdog, I'll hit him. I'll throw even more on him. So I threw a couple units on him at -120. And now he's got back up to -150. I think you can get him at like -140 still. But he's bumped back up to the favorite a little bit. I could see this closing again too, because there does seem to be some Ige backers. But the way I see this fight, Ige, 80% of his takedowns are double legs, and I do think he can really string together a nice shot together every now and then and get really deep on your hips. And I have seen Aguilar get taken down if somebody just times a nice shot together and like Damon Jackson in LFA timed a couple nice double legs, and you can get deep on his hips, and so did Joey Gomez in the Contender Series. But Ige only really puts together those shots kind of early in the fight or early in the rounds, and then he gasses and his shots kind of go to shit. But also, like, Aguilar can still defend a double leg really well because he digs underhooks, and Barzola, he catches the underhooks on the shot and then angles off. And Barzola shot so many double legs on it. That's Barzola's go-to. It's a double leg just like Ige. I do think Ige has a better double leg than Barzola early in the fight and early in the rounds, but I think Barzola maintains a consistent better double leg throughout the fight because he has better cardio. And like Aguilar digs underhooks well and just circles off the cage, like if you kind of push him up that way. And he'll also like post on the head if you do switch up to a single leg, which is what I want to see, and limp leg out. It shows me that he actually knows single leg defense. But mostly Ige's a double leg guy, and I pretty much see this as Aguilar defending. I think he'll get taken down. I do think he'll get taken down like a couple times. But I think there will probably be about, Ige will probably attempt about 8 to 12 shots, honestly. And I think Aguilar will stop most of them. I think he'll stop about 75% of the shots, like for sure. And I think as the rounds go, it will be good because Ige tends to get the takedowns kind of early in rounds, and then he kind of goes to shit. And we know recency bias is a huge, huge deal when it comes to judges. And I think Aguilar is going to be finishing the later halves of all the rounds strong because Ige's takedowns just go so bad as the rounds go on. And I think Aguilar will just stop most of them anyway. But I do think Ige has good enough kind of like penetration on his shots to get in deep. That sounds fucking dirty, but you know what I mean. He can shoot like a good double. And I think he'll get a couple takedowns. I just think Aguilar will mostly stop them, especially towards the end of rounds. And then on the feet, I think Aguilar's way better. He tends to not get hit all that much, which I like. And he's good at countering. Sometimes he can be a little passive, but Ige, that kind of plays into his countering game because Ige will be a little aggressive on the feet and sloppy and hittable. And I think Aguilar is just going to time him up and square him up with a lot of shots and a lot of strikes. So that's kind of how I see it from a on the feet and stopping the takedown point of view. I think Aguilar will mostly stop the takedowns, but I do think he'll get taken down a couple of times. He might not, but like I think he probably will. I think he'll get taken down like once or twice throughout the fight, but stop most of the shots. And I think Ige tends to get really animated and like sluggish on some of his shots when they're failing, and that's a bad look in the judges' scorecards too. So like that and the fact that I think towards the end of the rounds, he'll be missing the shots even more. It will just look good for Aguilar, and Aguilar will probably piece him up standing. Then on the ground, so once it gets to the ground, Ige, he's a black belt. Everyone's gonna yell at me, he's a fucking black belt. But at least like where I grapple, we call it a two-way black belt, or somebody's not a two-way black belt. And Ige is mostly a top game guy, and when he's on his back, he's not good. If you watch, like Jordan Griffin and other guys have mounted him, and Aguilar is actually really good when he's on top to kind of put you in bad positions. I think Aguilar can do damage to Ige if Aguilar happens to kind of reverse a position and end up on top, which I think is possible because even Ige on top, he's good early. He's like kind of dangerous early on top, but he'll get really high in positions, like going submission over position, and kind of just fall off. And Aguilar's tight enough with his defensive jiu-jitsu where I think he could even scramble out and get up and make it back to a striking fight, or just get on top and then do some damage to Ige. So I think that could happen. So yeah, like on the floor, I think Ige is just a little sloppy on top, and I think he's dangerous early. I think if he gets a finish, Ige, it would be very quickly. It would be like a super quick submission. I don't think it will happen later. And Aguilar, on his back, he actually has a better bottom game than Ige. Like, Ige is not good off his back, and Aguilar is decent at guard retention, one, and just not giving up terrible positions. I've seen people get like to a couple positions on him, but nothing that really screamed a red flag to me. And when he's on his back, he's good at digging an underhook and reversing position or getting back up, and he did that against Damon Jackson. And Damon Jackson's a good wrestler. He's probably a better wrestler than Ige, especially throughout like a cardio 15-minute fight. And another thing is he digs his underhooks, but Ige likes to posture up to land strikes, and that will give Aguilar the opportunity to just get back up again. So, like, the way I see this is, on the feet, Ige's a little outmatched, and I think most people would agree with that. And I think he's just going to be failing the takedowns as the rounds go. Like, he could get some, but I think he'll mostly fail them as the rounds go, because Aguilar's takedown defense is pretty good, but he still can be timed for like a good double leg. And then on the mat, I think Aguilar just isn't in that much danger off his back. I think it could happen early if just like opportunistically Ige just happens to like catch mount in a weird way or something. I could see there being a little danger for Aguilar. That's totally possible. But I think overall on his back, he's fine from just from an avoiding damage standpoint, especially as the rounds go. The first couple minutes might be a little scary for Aguilar, but he might not even get taken down. So yeah, from like a damage standpoint, when he's on his back, I just don't think Ige will really do much from the top position. And then I think Aguilar will mostly be able to reverse position with his underhooks because Ige likes to posture up and land strikes, and because Ige is just kind of an idiot with some of his submission over position attempts, where it will just give Aguilar plenty of ways to get back to his feet. And I think Aguilar could do a lot of damage if he gets on top too. So I ranted on that a lot. Sorry about that. I hope that was like cohesive enough to understand, but I really just think, to sum it up, Aguilar will mostly be able to play that sprawl and brawl game. I like his underhooks, catching him on doubles. And I think once on the mat, I don't think he's in all that much danger. And I think there will be enough opportunities to get back up, especially because most of Ige's takedowns come early in the rounds, to where Aguilar can get back up and even get top position on him at points. I think he's got the better cardio, and I just think he's the more dangerous fighter. And I would just be surprised if Ige... I would be surprised if he took a decision here. It's possible. If he just happens to get takedowns like at the right times in the judges' eyes, I think it's possible, but I think Aguilar's a safe bet here. So I think playing at minus 120 was amazing. I still think his line has value at minus 150. I cap him at a solid, I cap him around minus 200. And like I said earlier when I was talking about the Contender Series, minus 120, the implied percentages compared to minus 200, that's a big edge on the bookies. So I think that's good. And I still think minus 150 is even value, or minus 140 where he's kind of at now. But I still think that line might improve. So I would wait it out if you haven't played him yet. I think that line's going to improve. I could see Ige flipping to the favorite. I think people are going to play him, and we're going to get him. So that's that. Those are really my only plays so far, but I have some more kind of in mind, but I want to kind of keep taping. And the podcast with Gugabe will come out tomorrow, so you'll get to hear some of his picks and us just kind of talk about every fight. And I'll send out a final thoughts video at the end of this week. Sorry for the lack of videos this week, but I still, even whenever I'm kind of not getting all the videos out in a week, I try to make sure that I'm able to at least talk about every fight and kind of give you guys my picks. So I still try to give you a full analysis on everything. So thank you so much, guys. Bye.